Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing well and staying safe. For this video, we'll be going through an unboxing and review of the Marvel's Sentinel. And this is part of the Marvel Legends line, particularly with focus of the Uncanny X-Men. And this was released by Kenner. Now this particular version just came out this year, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is basically a reissue of the Sentinel from some many years ago. So spilling over into a bit more of the figure side of things, now that I'm getting a bit of a better handle on things through things like my Transformers side of things, which is really pushing forward with some of the figure content. So there's been a few figures here and there released that have always caught my eye. I was a big fan of the X-Men back in the 90s, still a fan of the X-Men even now, although I've long ceased collecting the comics. In fact, I probably stopped sometime after the whole Onslaught saga. But when I saw this, the very classic looking Sentinel, it was very hard to say no. So here we have the very retro style looking Sentinel in its very shades of purple and pink color scheme. I will admit it was actually larger than I thought. I was thinking it would be one of the very small, the 6cm type figures, but I guess it's not necessarily incorrect. The Sentinel isn't exactly human sized, so it could be just general scaling, but yeah, I quite like the background image that they've used for the front of the cardstock. And obviously there we have the Sentinel itself. So the main body of the Sentinel, and we do have some additional accessories. So we have a bit of a blaster effect. We have its little tendril coil that comes out of its hand, and there will also be a alternative head sculpt. Be interesting to see how much articulation is in this, but we will find that out very shortly. So that's the look of the front of the packaging. In terms of the back of the packaging, it's very stylized. I do like how it has the very, well, it's even pre-90s comic book artwork. It's very much Marvel Legends centric. It's not specific to the X-Men, but we do have a nice shot here of the Uncanny X-Men with the Sentinel. And it's definitely a Sentinel and not Master Mold. Well, I'm assuming it's just a normal Sentinel. And then we just have a quick short blurb about it in different languages. Although in this case, from the English perspective, we have the blurb as, "From the twisted mind of Bolivar Trask, the mutant hunting Sentinel goes on the attack." So, there you go. It's interesting what a little bit of retro looks like in this current day and age. So now that we've had a quick look of the front and the back, I am going to attempt to open the packaging somehow without destroying it. And then we can have a better look at the Sentinel, the accessories, and it looks like there'll be something at the very bottom. Maybe some very brief instructions, potentially. Probably just how to attach the various accessories and detach his head and reattach the other head without causing too much damage. And with the Sentinel now free from his plastic clamshell, so here we have the Sentinel himself. Very sturdy feeling. We'll see what type of articulation it has in a moment. We have a blaster effect, a capture coil tendril, either, as well as a alternative head that looks to have sustained some damage while hunting a mutant. Don't know what mutant has damaged it, but clearly the head is damaged. So that's very cool. So the one full Sentinel and basically 3 accessories. So how are we going to do this? So I guess looking at the Sentinel in all his glory, hoping I didn't move the camera in too much to offset the Sentinel. So some pretty good detailing on this, and I do feel it's still just a redo of the original item released from years and years ago. But the detailing is actually quite nice. So you've got a lot of the detailing throughout the actual Sentinel body. The colors are very, very identifiable as a Sentinel with the nice purple and I was going to say fuchsia, but it's not really fuchsia. From my 40k days, I was going to say it reminds me of some lish purple color, but there you go. But yes, a very simple color palette, but just the way that all the colors are divided throughout the body does make it look very good. So that is the front of the Sentinel, one of the sides, the back of the Sentinel, and the other side. Now I've just realized, I noticed it in the packaging. I don't think it will come up very well here, but the Sentinel has one of these little clear red things in the back of its head, which makes me wonder that if hold on, let me see if I can actually do this. Maybe not. Okay, I can see it. I think it's just a case of I can't angle it well enough without basically sticking an entire light source into the main camera lens. But yes, if you can get light to shine through that red part, you will actually see the red pupils come through on the Sentinel's head. I think that is really super cool, and really reminds me back of the look of the Sentinels back from the X-Men animated series back from the 90s, which will be coming back again soon in the near future. I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully we will have some Sentinels within the first few episodes. Anyway, so that was a quick look of the actual Sentinel itself. Definitely some very good colors, and it does feel quite solid. I mean, I can do this and it's definitely not going anywhere. Now, in terms of articulation, so we've already covered, well, not that that's articulation, but that is a very cool little light bar thing. So the Sentinel's head, it will go all the way around. So yes, it does do a full 360. The head can also tilt up and down, obviously go side to side because it can do that 360 as well. So very nice. It's definitely got some good posing on that socket on the neck joint. So if anything, it just feels more imposing being able to move its head around. So that's the articulation in the head. In terms of the arms, so the arms will be able to do a full 360 front and back. That's the only direction they can move, so they can't, move outwards and things like that. Now, the arms, well, the lower arms, yes, the forearms, can also do a 360 at the actual join. Why would it do that? Who knows? Very interesting hand for the Sentinel. It feels like it's actually supposed to be holding something there, at least in this hand. So that's one hand. The other hand can do it as well. And in fact, this hand also has a attachment point. So I suspect this is where either the blast effect or the tendril can be attached. So no doubt you can pose the Sentinel and have him shooting down. In fact, does the Sentinel stand on himself? It does. Once I finally get around to taking pictures and doing the shorts for this, I can say right now, it actually looks quite imposing looking at him standing like that. So, head looked at, arms looked at, we know the 4 arms can move. In terms of legs, what do we have? So, the legs can go all the way to the front. Cannot go any further back. It is definitely encumbered by something. I can't tell what, but it's definitely encumbered. So yes, the leg basically can only go out to the front like that. Much like the arms, it doesn't have any other movement of going outwards, so the Sentinel will definitely not be doing the splits. In terms of the lower legs, unlike the forearms, they do not spin around. So at best, yes, the Sentinel can sit. Seems a little awkward, but yes, the Sentinel can sit. In fact, I mean, ideally, it's not so much that it would be sitting, but if the Sentinel was laying down, I guess it would go through an activation process of basically trying to do this while live is really awkward. It would basically be sitting upright. Unfortunate that it has no knee bends or anything. We'll definitely give it some more articulation, but yes, this was something from probably the 90s era, so didn't need to do too much for people to be amazed and wowed over. I don't know why I just looked at that, and I swear it's the only thing. This will be a tangent for those who saw the Days of Future Past movie. I swear that's the only thing on the weird Trask Sentinels that actually was remotely Sentinel looking. But anyway, it wasn't a terrible movie, but it wasn't a great movie. So now that we've looked at the articulation, which overall is fairly limited, but what does one expect? I guess in terms of the accessories, well, let's see what we can do. So let's start with the head. Let's see how if I can take this head off. So there you go. That's basically the head of the Sentinel. It's just a giant ball socket. That's a nice close-up of the Sentinel's head. And in fact, you can actually see in here the bits of that translucent red. So it is unfortunate that yeah. Hopefully I'll find a way of having that shine through. In fact, when it's in the light box, it might be easier because there will be light coming straight through. So that's the standard Sentinel head, which we will put over there. This time we will mount the alternative head. Now this head pretty much has that little eye dot. It's pretty much painted on, so there's no translucent section on this head. In terms of putting the head on, it does come on quite nicely. And there you go. It is now a Sentinel that has clearly sustained some damage while tracking some mutants. But I will admit, especially looking at that red dot, just the look of that eye dot, the sound of the Sentinel from the X-Men animated series. Yeah. The Sentinels, I will admit, are definitely one of my more favorite X-Men villains that have managed to stay as villains. I think. I don't know. Villains become heroes and all sorts of things. I would not be surprised if half the Sentinels are now friends. But anyway, that's the alternative head. As for the accessories, so let's see if I can get this blast effect on. So it's pretty much just a hollow effect inside, and it just has that attachment point there. So let's see how we can do this. How does this work? Okay, so I'm guessing it's supposed to look something like that. So if you ever saw the animated series, you'd probably know exactly what they should look like. But I'm assuming his hand will obviously stand out more like that. And the blast effect is pretty much just coming out of the middle of his palm there. So definitely not too bad. I guess if you tilt the head over, you can basically have him looking down his arm and preparing to, I dare say, incapacitate a mutant. So that was that. Now I'm sure there's probably an easy way of posing it and everything, but I think that looks slightly better. But I will worry about that when the time comes. So that was the included blaster effect. Hopefully over time that doesn't decide to break off. Wouldn't surprise me. There's obviously some of the downside about plastics back in the day. Some of these things weren't exactly made to be fully durable. Now, as for the coil, it's not unfortunately posable. It's very much fixed in this particular look, but if I there you go. That actually felt like it went in a lot easier. So that's the tendril coming out of the hand. Once again, pretty much have the head looking down the arm as the coil is going out to most likely try to capture someone. You could probably definitely fit a limb around that. Definitely not a waist, but yes, you could definitely do that. So that would be the Sentinel with the tendril attachment added in. That one definitely feels a lot easier to put in and put out, so I might have to just try again with the blast effect. Maybe I wasn't putting it in right. I will put the original head back on, which does come on quite nicely. It does make me wonder if this can actually... It's a shame that this hand doesn't have one, but yeah, you can't really... The fingers are very wide open, so there's no actual way for him to pseudo hold it as if it was coming out of this particular hand. Is there anything that he can do much with this blaster? Not really. So that is pretty much a look at the Marvel Legends Sentinel. What are my thoughts? So, given that it's a bit of a dated figure, I'd say the articulation isn't too bad. I think for the Sentinel, given what it is, I think part of it is just some of the more simple posing and just, I dare say, eliciting some of that general quote-unquote fear. Would it be great to have a much more modernized version of this that has proper knee joints, proper elbows, shoulders and everything? I think that would be super cool. I do know there was the HasLab Sentinel from several years ago that probably has all of that and more. I do regret never getting one. In fact, I don't even think I knew about it at the time, because I definitely would have loved having a Sentinel of that. In fact, I still wouldn't mind having a few Sentinels, but we'll see how things go. So for what it is, it's not too bad. It's definitely not perfect. It will feel aged against any modernized action figure because they will have minimal points of articulation that this does not. But in terms of the actual Sentinel, I think it's quite cool that it has the red, well, the translucent red bar in its standard head. That's definitely super cool that if you can catch the light, just having the pupils come through in that very intense red is really nice. Having some of that movement in the forearm is really, really good as well. With what movement there is in the arm and the forearm, it does help at least with some of the posing to give it a bit more of that dramatic action shot with what articulation it has. The colors are definitely very spot on for a Sentinel, can't argue that. Having some of these additional accessories are very cool. It would be nice to see if I can get this one to work a touch better. It's a shame that you can't really army build with this. I mean, you could. I will admit, I picked up 2. You could army build with these and have a whole fleet of Sentinels. The downside would be because of the limited articulation and everything, you will end up having the same look over and over and over again. At the same time, the Sentinels, they're not supposed to look overly distinct from each other. So it is possible to army build, but the costings would definitely add up over time, so do so at your own risk, I dare say. But overall, I definitely like the aesthetic of it. I do like Sentinels. And obviously being more of an X-Men fan of most of the Marvel range, having this in the collection is really, really cool. And I'm definitely glad I have one, well, not just one, but actually 2. So I'll probably have one in the standard mode and one probably with the alternate head and things like that. So that would be really, really cool. I mean, given that there's 2 accessories and 2 different heads, you could probably have up to 4 Sentinels. 5 maybe. One with a standard look with no accessories, one with alternative head with 1 accessory, alternative head with that, and vice versa. So you could do it. Definitely nothing wrong with that idea. I would definitely say if you're a fan of the X-Men, the flurry of X-Men villains, Sentinels, or have a love of retro figures, definitely pick this up if you don't have one in your collection. As I've said a few times now, I'm very glad that I now have 2 of them in my collection. It's very nice to have this. It does bring back a nice sense of nostalgia, both comic book wise and obviously the original 90s series or the animated series. Especially with the first 2 episodes were basically Night of the Sentinels. Thank you very much for watching this unboxing and review of the Sentinel. Feel free to leave a like, a comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the content. All of this does help support the channel and I do greatly appreciate it. Extra content can also be found on my Instagram account, link below. And on that note, I will probably have a short in tandem with this video, just to show off a bit more of the actual Sentinel in its more native upright position. Stay safe and take care, and I will catch you all in a future video, whether it's figure related or something else on my channel. See ya.